Good morning, everybody. We've got a mixed trade in grain markets here early on Friday morning. It is 6:30 a.m. Central Time. December corn futures up 3/4 cent at 563.5. January soybeans up 4.5 cents at 1250.5. December Chicago wheat down 5 cents at 767.5. December Kansas City wheat down 7 at 783. December spring wheat is up 3/4 cent at 1083.25. If you guys are listening on the podcast, as always, appreciate it. Leave me a rating or review on that Apple Podcast app in particular. I could use some more ratings and reviews there. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, like these videos, help me to grow this thing. If you need some additional assistance from me, go to my website, www.standardgrain.com. Click on Grain Marketing Plan. Check out this subscription service, guys. Tons of information from me for $49.99 a month. You can cancel it at absolutely any time. There's no other fee, no other obligation. Won't try to sell you anything else. We had some fresh multi-month highs in the corn market again yesterday. The nearby December corn contract had its best trade since the 17th of August. It traded up to 568 3/4, I believe, was the high print. I don't know necessarily that there's one particular reason why the corn market is acting as good as it is. There's a number of reasons. Demand is good. We saw the second best weekly ethanol number, production number on record just this past week. We've still got a really good book of export sales. I'll talk about that here in a second. I think there's a lot of people who believe that this acreage situation in regard to 2022, which I discussed yesterday, is also an issue here. But no doubt about it, the market acts phenomenally well. That DEES 22 corn contract also, or DEES 22 corn posted fresh life of contract highs yesterday, so a very strong action there. So the corn market itself acts very, very well. The wheat market acts very, very well. You look at soybeans and not so good by comparison. Now, speaking of soybeans, export sales there continue to struggle. Weekly net sales, just 1.18 million metric tons. That compares to 1.62 the same week last year. Total commitments for the marketing year are still down 35% versus last year. That gap has kind of been intact here for the last few weeks. USDA is projecting, and I've discussed this probably every week here for the last couple of months, USDA projects that soybean exports this marketing year are going to decline only 7%, yet sales are down 35%. So this is a bearish item that in all likelihood is going to force USDA to cut its export estimate in future reports. It's going to add to the carryout. USDA currently projects the carryout for this current marketing year, 21-22 for the United States, at 320 million bushels. A lot of people believe that the market is already trading something well north of 400, maybe 450, maybe even higher than that, depending on who you ask. Corn export sales are now running below last year's pace. This is essentially the first time in forever that sales for this current marketing year are behind last year. We had been running at a record pace, but sales have slowed a little bit. The reason why we're at a record pace largely has to do with those very early Chinese purchases. Now, we don't really have the problem in corn that we have in soybeans. We've got a really good looking book. USDA is projecting a 9% decline in corn exports this year. So you have a healthy enough book here in corn where you could meet or exceed government targets at this point. Still, the one red flag or the one cautionary item is that China has not made a significant purchase of this year's U.S. corn crop since May. So do they come back and buy more? That would certainly be a positive. There was some there were some additional rumors yesterday suggesting Chinese interest in U.S. corn, but we've heard a lot of that over the last 10 days or so and have had no confirmation. Row crop planting in Argentina moving forward. The grain exchange there said that 4.6% of the soybean crop was planted. The corn crop is 27.6% planted. They've had some rains there recently, which have been a net positive both for row crop farmers and for wheat growers. The exchange increased its projection for the country's wheat crop in Argentina to 19.8 million metric tons, up from 19.2 previously. This was a quote from their report. Although this wheat season has been marked by restrictive ground moisture, situation, showers fell at key moments to maintain adequate conditions. Argentina is the fourth largest corn producer in the world behind the U.S., China, and Brazil. They are the third largest soybean producer behind Brazil and Argentina, a much smaller player in regard to global wheat, relatively speaking. Third quarter U.S. GDP grew at a rate of only 2% annualized. That was below that was below what the trade had expected. And we've kind of, I mean, it was not a great print in regard to GDP, but we're kind of normalizing here in terms of the growth. The big swing occurred in the second and third quarter of 2020. First COVID hit, and you saw like a 32% decline in that second quarter of 2020. And then you got it all back basically in the third quarter of 2020. And now we've kind of normalized, 2% is pretty normal, because prior to COVID, these GDP numbers had been running positive to the tune of like 1.5 up to maybe 3%, depending on the quarter. So we're normalizing here. The big swing has already occurred. That second to third quarter of 2020 is where you saw the big swing. Jobless claims actually were the lowest of the COVID era at only 281,000 last week, so that was positive. The stock market actually rallied yesterday despite the GDP print. Maybe it liked the jobless claims number. It's a little bit lower this morning. I know that there were some of the tech companies, I think Apple and Amazon, had some less than stellar earnings. Remember, today is first notice day for November soybean futures. Make sure you take a look at any remaining open positions there. Cattle market got beat up yesterday, and there was actually some better cash cattle trade, 126 in the south, 126 to 127 in the north. Yet that October contract, which expires today, I believe, was down almost $3, and you were down more than $1 in the December and February contracts. So cash market and futures kind of doing two different things here. The feeder cattle market has not liked this recent rally, and the corn market has been off and under some pressure. In the outside markets this morning, the U.S. dollar is up. S&P's down 22. The Dow's down 27 points. Bonds are down. Precious metals are down. Crude oil is up 36 cents at 83.17. Everybody have a great weekend. I'll talk to you guys on Monday.